In this video, I'll be demonstrating two separate issues with aiming in Escape from Tarkov. The first issue is a bug with lasers, which causes them to become inaccurate if you set your FOV to anything other than 50 degrees. The second issue is with reflex sights. I've tested every reflex sight in the game, and I've found that about half of them have issues that make them very inaccurate in many situations, while the other half are perfectly accurate. Let's start off by demonstrating the bug with lasers. The simplest way to show this is to look through a sight I know is accurate, in this case a Weaver sight, with my lasers turned on and my FOV set to 50 degrees. The sight points perfectly between the two lasers, and it stays aligned even when my weapon is swaying. In other words, the relative position of the reticle and the lasers does not change. If I fire, the bullet lands in the center of the reticle as you would expect. Let's do the same thing, but with our FOV set to 75 degrees. This time, the lasers wobble and sway wildly. This behavior is clearly a bug. The reticle is actually correct, and if I fire, the bullet still lands in its center. But there's no reason that a change in FOV should cause lasers to sway relative to the weapon they are attached to. My reflex sight is actually still working, but my lasers are suddenly attached with rubber bands. Now let's move on to the second issue. We've established that lasers are accurate when our field of view is set to 50 degrees. This allows us to test the accuracy of sights. I've tested every reflex sight in the game and found that about half of them are broken, for lack of a better word. However, before I show my tests, I would like to preface that in real life, reflex sights are not perfect. All sights, even expensive, high-quality ones, have some amount of deviation due to parallax. Typically, as the reticle approaches the edges of the sight, usually due to movement of the viewer, we should expect it to deviate away from the center more. This is not the case in Tarkov. Many sights show very noticeable deviation even near the center of the sight, even high-quality, expensive sights. In the next section, I will show all of my tests and which sights work and which don't. If you'd like to skip ahead, I've included timestamps in the description of this video. For all of my tests, I've set my FOV to 50 degrees. I'll be using the check fire mode hotkey to rotate the gun, but I could also simply just move around or lean to perform the test. We're testing to see how well the reticle stays aligned with the lasers. I'll be ranking each sight by its amount of deviation. If a sight has more than one reticle mode, I'll test each one. From these tests, we can see that out of the 21 reflex sights in Tarkov, 11 have 0 deviation. They're perfect. 8 have low to moderate deviation, and 2 have high and extreme deviation, respectively. There are a few notable cases. The Weaver sight has 2 reticle modes and a 3rd red dot mode. The reticle modes are perfectly accurate, while the dot mode has noticeable deviation. Another case is the Eotech HHS-1, which has 2 modes, a telescopic and a reflex mode. Both modes have the same reticle, but for some reason the reflex mode has deviation while the telescopic mode has none. I seriously doubt that this behavior is intentional. In real life, the Eotech EXPS-3, for instance, is well known for having nearly 0 parallax. The fact that in Tarkov it is less accurate than a Cobra sight, the cheapest sight in the game, is a clear sign that this is a bug. Another sign is the fact that different modes on the same sight can have totally different behavior, or, for instance, that the Dovetail version of the OKP-7 behaves differently than the Picatinny version. The consequence of these 2 bugs is that if you go into a raid with the wrong sight and the wrong FOV, you won't be able to hit a damn thing, whether you're hip-firing with your lasers or aiming down sights. To hammer this home, I'm going to set my FOV to 75, put a PK06 in front of a Weaver, turn my lasers on, and let's look at everything at once in slow motion. Just look at this. I mean, can you guess where my shot's going to land? I have 3 points to aim with. Maybe my shot won't hit any of them. If none of my aim points agree, how am I supposed to make this decision? Of course, if you guessed it would hit my Weaver, you're correct. The PK06 is unreliable, and because of our FOV, our lasers can't be trusted either. So let's perform the same test, but with 2 working sights and our FOV set to 50. It's a pretty big difference.